Hello, welcome to Somerset Newswork. I'm Ian, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about Rupert Lowe and basically his sacking from the Reform Party. Now, I've told you before, I was a civil servant for 6 years. I was a union rep for 4 years. I was involved in disciplinary matters with staff in my unit. Now, if they'd done something wrong, there was a verbal warning, then a second verbal warning, then a written letter, and then a second written letter, then suspension, then sacking. I never got anybody sacked. I don't think I think we had one letter in my 4 years that one member of staff had, and we sorted that out. Now, I don't think it was right for me to talk about the cases that I was involved in. But everybody was innocent until proven guilty. Everybody was entitled to defence. And as the union rep, I was there to defend my member, basically against management. And if you've ever watched Yes Minister, that's what it's like. It's like, I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it. And there's days when you're just doing your work and you're just plodding along, and just something happens, and you sit back and you think, this is just like a Yes Minister sketch. I was in a meeting, and we're all sat round the table, only about half a dozen of us, and we're having a chat and we're talking and trying to sort things out. And I just sat there and listened to these civil servants with all the management speak, blue sky thinking out of the box, all this, all this management speak coming out. And I couldn't believe what they were saying. It was only a little problem, that could be solved easily. But they blew it out of all proportions. And about an hour in, I hadn't said a word. And I said, this is just like being in a Yes Minister sketch. And half of them laughed, and the other half went dead-faced and looked at me. But it was like Yes Minister. I think watching Yes Minister was good training for me to be in the civil service. Anyway, in the civil service, you have a civil service code. Like I said, you get 2 verbal warnings, 2 written warnings, then suspension, then sack. You can be sacked on the spot for certain crimes, but we never got that far. And when Rupert Lowe was accused of bullying, allegedly by a girl in his office and another girl, he was immediately suspended from the party. What I think should have happened is Rupert Lowe should have been suspended with the inquiry, or pending the end of the inquiry, before he lost the whip. I think just to sack him basically on the spot for allegations that turned out to be false. We now think that the 2 girls were talking about somebody else, not Rupert Lowe. Now, because that didn't stick, they then came up with the chairman saying that Rupert Lowe threatened to slit my throat. Allegations of bullying again. So he stayed without the whip, sacked. But once again, no inquiry. It's just 2 people, one word against the other. And Farage, being the leader, is going on hearsay. Hearsay has never been evidence to convict anybody. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? Which is what I thought reform was standing for. Everything that we thought they wanted to stand for, our constitution, our rights, our free speech, has just gone out the window. And Rupert Lowe has highlighted this. Now, he might have been a bit boisterous and raised his voice and had a few set tos. That happens in an office. Office politics are the worst thing ever. Now, I'm not a natural civil servant. I'm an engineer. I work in a workshop. I make things. When I was in the civil service, it was like a, square peg in a round hole. But I did the work I had to do. It was a job. I paid the mortgage, which is what I got the job for. And it was in the drive. I didn't have to go outside. And the thing is that in the civil service, office politics is unbelievable. Like I said, it was just like Yes Minister. And I think this is office politics on steroids. Rupert Lowe might have had words with somebody, but that doesn't mean it's bullying. He's a forceful character. I think Farage should have nipped it in the bud to start with and say, there's an inquiry, we won't say anything. But no, he's been proved to have, not this is Farage, he's been proved to be a bully, and that's why he's lost the whip. Out, gone. Is it because Farage feels threatened by somebody who's getting the press? Rupert Lowe, leading up to this, was on a lot of the television stations. Now, at the party conference, Rupert Lowe gave a speech, I would say, repatriating the boat people. That's PR, that's PR, public relations for you. He's talking about deporting them, sending them back home, which if they're here illegally, they should be sent back home. That's what I think. What do? We go around the channel and pick them up and then put them in 5-star hotels. We got people, ex-servicemen on the street. And these people come in, get picked up by the NRI, get put in a 5-star hotel, get free Wi-Fi, free food, free accommodation, free mobile phone. It just ain't right. Rupert Lowe highlighted this, and I agree with him. In his speech, he was told to tone it down. This is the way I see it. Nigel was out in boats, on his fishing boat, going out looking at the migrants coming in and reporting it. It was one of his things. I would say that he was backing Rupert Lowe to start with. Then we had an election. They got 5 MPs. Now, Farage has round that back. Farage is now saying that the illegals that come in, if they've committed a crime, should be transported back home. You see how this is changing? Like I said, Rupert Lowe was told to tone down his speech, and he didn't. I think the party as a organisation is trying to control the narrative. Farage said we've got to keep the Muslim vote on our side. Well, these are illegals and they shouldn't be allowed to vote anyway, so they're not a problem. So the party has changed. Is that because of the chairman? I don't know. We now find out that the Reform headquarters is taking staff on from the Tory party headquarters. What's going on there? Is the Reform Party going to become the Tory Party 2.0? Is there going to be a merge? If the staff are coming over, is there going to be a merger? I don't know. They talked about it after the election and before. It keeps coming up. And I'm just wondering if that's on the cards. But we don't want a Tory party. We've seen what the Tories are like, and we didn't like it. I couldn't have voted Tory at the last election. I voted Reform. I don't know if I'll be voting Reform again, but it is quite possible that I might, even though I'm not going to become a member. I still support the aims of Reform. But on certain policies they've reined back, and they're sounding like the Tories. The enemy is Labour. We've seen what Labour can do over the last 7 months. We've got Starmer flying off all over the place. He's never here, so he ain't sorting it out. That's been left to Rayner. And then you've got Rachel from Accounts. And there's all sort of shenanigans about their CVs and them lying about their jobs they've done. You know, they think they can spend their way out of a recession by taking money off of us, taxing us more, cutting welfare. Well, even if you cut welfare, that doesn't fit with spending government money to get the economy going. Spending government money doesn't get the economy going. They thought that in the 1920s in America, and that created the recession, the Great Recession of the 1920s, 1930s, because the government spent too much money. We've got to be fiscally responsible, like you at home. You know, you're on a wage, you're on what, £2,000 a month? You got your mortgage, that's £800, £900 a month. You got your car, you might lease a car, which is going to be, what, £100, £200 a month. You know, you got your food. You want to save some money up and have a holiday. You've got a credit card that might have, you know, an overdraft on it. Got an overdraft with the bank, but you're working and you're earning a wage. But if you get inflation, things become more expensive. And the money you've got doesn't go as far. So you've got to cut back. And you stop spending money. And you work out what your priorities are. And when you cut back, you're not growing the economy, and the economy shrinks. But you've got to do it to survive. The government can just spend money on top of money on top of money. We're supposed to be sending billions to Ukraine, and they say they're going to use the Russian money that they've confiscated. Commentators are now saying we haven't confiscated any of the Russian money. Now, my view is if you've got a legitimate company here, although they're Russian, you can stop the bank trading in that money and hold it. But if you use it for other ends and don't give it back to them, that's theft. So Starmer's going to steal the money. Why isn't Reform screaming and shouting about that? There's so much we can have a go at Labour about. And Reform should be winning, but they ain't. 30 volunteers for Reform have been suspended from the party, thrown out. One county group, local group, have resigned from Reform en masse. This is not the way to go. And it's all over Rupert Lowe and this washing our dirty linen in public. Like I was saying, you've got the Civil Service Code. What should have happened was it should have been... I can understand Rupert Lowe being suspended, but not sacked until the inquiry is over. It isn't until proven guilty. That's what I thought we stood for. But the way Rupert Lowe has been treated is unforgivable. That's why I withdrew my support for reform. But it's reform as a party, not reform policies, which I still mostly agree with. I just think that the way Rupert Lowe was treated was not fair. He was found guilty without the inquiry. In the Act of Parliament, I know, in an Act of Parliament, here we go again, Ian. In the Bill of Rights, 1688, it says, grants and promises of fines before conviction are illegal and void. That's our Constitution. That's why when you are arrested, you go to court and the court decides what your fine is. Now, I don't believe that the police should be allowed to give you a caution, because that's a forfeiture before a conviction. And I don't believe that's part of our Constitution. I believe that on-the-spot fines are illegal, because it's a fine before conviction. And you have to, if you get a parking fine or a speeding ticket, it's an on-the-spot fine, and you have to appeal against it. That is against our Constitution, because it's a fine before conviction. You haven't been convicted of it. You've got to appeal against it because you've already been found guilty. And this is what I thought reform was standing up for. Our rights and liberties. And Rupert Lowe understands about the Bill of Rights. He keeps mentioning the Bill of Rights when he talks. Could it be that the powers behind the power, the dark forces within reform, don't want him to talk about the Bill of Rights and what constitutional rights we have? I'm only asking the question. Anyway, that's my little rant for today. And I think that the party should have followed the Civil Service Code as it's laid out. And as I would say, as a gunsmith, gone off half-cock. You know, they made a mountain out of a molehill, maybe. You know, when the chairman says Rupert Lowe threatened to slit his throat. Rupert Lowe says that he told him, I don't know what it was over, that the party had just slit its throat. It's a term, it's not aimed at the chairman. And I happen to believe Rupert Lowe. He's a spade man. Like Lee Anderson is a spade man. You know. Well, never mind. Let's hope that something good comes of this. And it looks like they're going to start another party. And what I'm afraid of is you've got UKIP, you've got Lawrence Fox, and now they're talking about Rupert Lowe and Habib starting another party. That's going to split the centre-right votes that we all agree with. And what that will do is let Labour in back in again. Might be a reduced majority, mind, but Labour could still be in the government and we'll still be in this quagmire we're in now. The people have got to get their act together. And if if you're a member of Reform, try and get the membership together to try and sort this out. I can't do it, I'm not a member. I support Reform, but not anymore. After the way Rupert Lowe was treated, that's it. There's going to have to be some real changes before I stand up again and support them fully. Anyway, Ian, I think I've definitely said enough now. Bye bye.